Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Sporting Club production of the Sports Quiz with the Stars. Hope you're trying to keep cool tonight. I've got a fan on full blast on me. So thanks for joining us. A very warm, hot and sticky and sweaty welcome to another edition of the quiz. As always, I have to start by giving a big thank you to our sponsors. Our sponsors tonight, yet again, are TAG, the Test Assurance Group. TAG provide end-to-end testing solutions for COVID-19, obviously extremely relevant at the moment. They're working directly with employers to deliver a complete antibody and antigen testing to employees to enable a safe, controlled, fast and manageable approach to returning to work. And TAG's systems are data-led to provide critical information as the UK returns to work. So a big thank you to TAG, Test Assurance Group, for supporting us, sponsoring us tonight. I hope you enjoy the show, guys. A little bit of housekeeping before we bring on our big start guest for tonight. We're going to take a little break of 2 or 3 weeks before the next show because it's August and people are amazingly going away. We'll get back on the horse in September. And of course, in September, that's when all our other clubs are open for business. We have a David Hay lunch for real, not streamed, but for real, physically, on September the 10th at our M base in the city. We have a Barry Hearn breakfast on October the 1st. And we have a Tim Henman lunch on October the 20th as well to look forward to. And they will happen. We will make them happen, and we'll make them as COVID free, COVID responsible and social distancing as we possibly can. So nothing to worry about. All good. Okay. We are back in the game, and we're going to crack on as soon as everybody's back to school, so to speak, and maybe a little bit more back to work. Anyway, that's for then. This is now all about tonight's show and tonight's guest. And tonight's guest is an absolute legend of rugby league. He actually began as a union player, but very early into his career, he shifted codes and went to a rugby league. And I think it's fair to say it worked out rather well for him. He's the recipient of an MBE. He scored over 500 tries in professional rugby league. That actually puts him on the third in the all-time list of try scorers in this country and first as an English player. This guy's so good. He has a statue of himself outside Wembley Stadium. He played for Widnes. He played for the London Broncos. He played for the Salford City Reds, but he's best known for playing for that amazing Wigan team in the 1990s. Listen to this stat: 424 games of professional rugby league, 444 tries, an absolute try machine. His nickname is Chariots because, of course, our guest tonight is the one and only Martin Chariots Offiah, and hopefully Martin is going to join us any moment now. Always the moments of truth as we wait for Martin to join us. I see some movement. I see some action.
Hello, Ian.
Here he is. Hooray! Hey.
Feeling rather hot and sweaty.
Mate, I'm almost over the top in happiness whenever our guests arrive. It goes back to a few weeks ago when Sam Allardyce rocked up 10 minutes late, and we had no idea where he was, and I thought I was going to tell everybody about my holidays for the next hour. So I'm so happy to see you. You know, A, because you're a mate, but B, I'm just happy to see you, you know. So I've got a fan on me. I've got a fan on me now. How are you?
Not too bad. I as I say, ruptured my Achilles about just under 3 weeks ago. So I'm actually in a boot at the moment. Thankfully, I've come out of a plaster cast, which I've been in for 2.5 weeks. So yeah, a bit of serve volley into the net, and then the old Achilles tendon just popped on me. And I managed to make it through 15 years as a rugby player, and playing tennis is probably my second or third worst injury I've ever had. It's going to take me another 8 weeks in a boot before I can even get to physio. So it's a long hill.
Oh, well, I sympathise for you. I guess at least you escaped that when you were scoring all your tries for fun, and at least you didn't have masses of time out with that kind of an injury when you were a pro player.
Yeah, I know it would have been tough. As I say, I was speaking to a few old pals. Michael Thomas was telling me about the time that an Achilles tendon nearly ruined his career, and Derek Redmond's been giving me some great advice on how to keep wiggling my toes and all the different exercises you can do, even when you're legs in a boot or a cast. So yeah, I've been getting a lot of help.
Well, I'll tell you what, Derek, and he won't mind me saying this because he said it himself at a few of our lunches, and he's obviously a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
He said it didn't work out too badly for him because him doing his Achilles in that final bend of the 400 meters in Barcelona, it's had over like 20 million views on YouTube, and it launched him as an inspirational speaker.
They always say, as sportsmen, you don't dictate what you're remembered for. I think it was actually his hamstring that he pulled on his Achilles.
His hamstring, you're right, it's hamstring, yeah.
I think he said he's had 11 Achilles operations, which I thought was incredible, how he managed to have time to run. But as you say, as a sportsman, you don't dictate, you don't pick your nicknames, you don't pick what you're remembered for, We're all going to remember Johnny Wilkinson, for kicking that goal, when England won the World Cup in 2003. And, Derek's going to be remembered for, Winston around and his dad for helping him around that bend, at that fantastic event. So, yeah, you can't pick what you're going to be remembered for. It's just nice to be remembered, as we know here.
It's nice to be remembered, yeah. And you know what? You'll be remembered for all sorts of things. But the thing that probably stands out for me more than anything else, but it's a hard one, is the famous 90-meter try during the Challenge Cup final. It was a long way to go, and you were going full pelt, just as well your hammy didn't go then.
I know, actually, someone sent me actually a YouTube clip not too long ago when I think I was playing against Hull or somebody, and I went the length of the field and I had about another 10 meters to go, and my hamstring actually did pop. I think you'll see it on my Instagram or one of my social media pages, because I posted not too long ago, but I still managed to score the try before getting carried off. But thankfully, on that famous day back at Wembley, that sunny Wembley in 1994, my hamstrings didn't go, managed to score the try. And obviously it meant so much to me because I'd had a couple of years playing for Widnes, didn't manage to get to a final. Managed to get to a final with Wigan in 92, won the Lance Todd, funny enough, but still didn't get to score length of the field try in 93. Had another misfire, and even though Wigan won against Widnes. So to do it in 94, to win a Lance Todd and to do something that's going to be, part of rugby league folklore. And obviously, it's my pose for my statue outside Wembley, just 40 metres down the pathway from Bobby Moore, fantastic memories.
Well, we're going to talk, obviously, a lot more. We'll talk during the quiz and we'll talk at halftime as well. But since you brought it up, it's surreal, isn't it? Are you happy with the statue, first of all? Does it look like you? Because that Ronaldo one they did a few years ago, did it look anything like him? I know.
I think Ronaldo's was pretty bad. And I think David Beckham, didn't someone play a trick on him doing a statue of him in America, which looked pretty bad. I'm happy with any statue. I said, as long as it's got my name on it, it's got me sweatbands on it, then, and I can identify it as me. But, Mr. Winterburn done a fantastic job of that statue outside Wembley. I'm honoured to be a part of it. And, to think that that's going to be there in, how many years' time when my kids have kids and future generations. And if one day, when I'm not here, I'll be up there smiling somewhere. My great-great-grandson, will be saying, that's my great-great-granddad. So, you can't really put it into words or quantify, the thought of it as a young black kid growing up in London, and, walking around the streets of London, never knew there was a statue of a black person in London, so to actually gone on and achieve something in sport, and then, to be honoured with something like that, it's truly amazing.
It is amazing, and it's wonderful. And you know what? In 500 years' time, when I assume we'll both be gone unless we come up with something clever, people look at the great statues of London and they'll see William the Conqueror and they'll see William Shakespeare and they'll see Martin Offiah, and they won't know any different.
I know. I just love going to Wembley sometimes. You see foreign tourists walking by, go, "Oh, who's that? Who's that?" But yeah, it's always great to, as we do, to make our our mark, and to leave something to be remembered in the sport that we are blessed to take part in, and to create a legacy. You got to be truly blessed, because I remember having a chat with Steve Redgrave once. I think it was at Buckingham Palace the day. I think he was actually before he got his knighthood. I think he was getting his CBE on the same day as I got my MBE. I'm still in MBE. He's a knighthood now, but he was just saying that sometimes with sport it is more than you. Obviously he had other people in the boat with him, but things have to come together, and no matter how great you think you may be, you've got teammates, and sometimes things have to just go right for you on that day. And there's been many great sportsmen who have had great performances, but it's just not gone for them on that day.
Yeah. Okay, my friend. Well, listen, we this is supposed to be a quiz, so we better crack on with that. But we'll catch up at halftime with a longer chat. So everybody at home, the score by now. 10 questions. Myself and Martin are going to take turns asking them, and we'll have a little bit of a chat as well every so often during the questions. Then we'll give you the answers. Then we'll have a little halftime break, and Martin and I will continue our conversation. Then we'll have another 10 questions, 10 answers, and before you know it, it's 8 o'clock, and it will fly by. So if you're ready at home with your pens and pencils and pieces of paper, that sounds very old-fashioned, doesn't it? Or with your iPads or whatever you're doing, and Martin and I will get cracking, and I'll kick off with question 1, which is a football question. Manchester City are going very well in Europe, beat Real Madrid, the mighty Real Madrid, midweek. And it could be their year this year to finally become champions of Europe. My question is, they've only ever won one European trophy in their history. What was the trophy, and when did they do it? And that is worth 2 points. What's a trophy, and when did they do it? And sadly, both Martin and I, we may not remember it, but we were on this planet. Well, we'll say sadly, we're only just on that planet. So it was some time ago, put it that way. Right, over to you, my friend.
My question is a rugby league question. We've just seen the rugby league start back up on Sky with some fantastic enthralling games in the first 2 restart rounds of Super League. But my question is going back to the old days, back to when I played. And my question is, can you name the 2 old grounds that Wigan and St Helens used to play at? Now that's worth 2 points. So not these new glossy grounds that they're playing at currently, but the old grounds. Can you name the 2 old grounds that Wigan Warriors and St Helens used to play at?
And just to say, guys, that it wasn't that long ago. We're not talking about the ground that they played in 1920. I mean, this has all happened in the last 20 years, 15 years or so. We can't name the ground, but just something I wanted to ask you about that, Martin. When Wigan moved from the ground, which we can't say the name yet, to the new stadium, I remember sort of talking to people, and it was kind of seen as it was like a cathedral. It's now a big supermarket or something, but it took a while, didn't it? Because at the time it was almost blasphemous. It was almost sacrilegious to leave the spiritual home of Wigan.
Absolutely. I had a famous day at the old Central Park when I scored 10 tries in 92, I think, in the Premiership semi-final. And I always joke that I scored my 9th try in the fruit and veg aisle. So,
yeah, very good.
Now it's a supermarket. But yeah, things move on. Nothing lasts forever. Thankful that I played in a great area. I nearly said the name of the ground there. Got to be careful.
Nearly got you out then.
Yeah.
It was great, and we will talk about that great era a little bit later on. My turn. Question 3 is a Formula 1 question. So 5 famous former drivers have each won the world title 3 times. One of them is the great Ayrton Senna. Some say the greatest of all time. Another one was Sir Jackie Stewart, who, God willing, we have as a lunch guest in November. If we can make it happen. I mean, we've got the dates. It's just hopefully he can get over here in the current situation. Sir Jackie Stewart, what a wonderful lunch that will be. You'll listen to every word you'll be hanging on to. But there were 3 others who won the world title 3 times, all famous names in the history of Formula 1. Can you name 2 of those 3? And that's worth 2 points. If you name 1, it's 1 point. So 2 out the other 3 who've won 3 world titles. I'm pretty sure, I might be imagining this, I've seen you at F1 as a guest of a team or something. Am I imagining that?
Yeah, you are definitely imagining that. I've always tried to get to the Monaco Grand Prix. That's the one I want to get to. I want to get on a yacht. It nearly happened for me one year, but I had a booking somewhere else, so I couldn't quite make it. I think Jamie Bolsh was over there with a few people doing an auction. I was going to get over there and do a bit of DJing on a yacht, but I plan to. Haven't been to. I think Brands Hatch. I've ridden a bike around Brands Hatch, and let me tell you, that was pretty tough because you don't really notice when you are watching racing on TV, but the courses, the dips, and
it's really hilly, isn't it? There,
Brands Hatch, and I was puffing and panting, let me tell you, going around Brands Hatch. But no, I haven't managed to get to Formula One yet.
Okay, your turn. Question 4.
My question number 4 is a cricket question. A lot of people may not know I was a keen cricketer as a youngster, captained my first 11, never captained the first 15, and got to play 1 second 11 game with Nasser Hussain. And my claim to fame is I bowled Graham Gooch out in the nets. I always remind him of that to this day.
You bowled him in the nets?
I bowled him out in the nets, Yorker took out his leg stump, and I still remind him of that. This was back in 1985, the year I left school.
But Essex?
Essex, Essex Seconds I played for, Me and John Lever, left arm over, trundling in. Anyway, the quick question. Can you name which counties England stars Chris Wokes and Don Best played for? And that's a 2-point question as well.
Yeah, what a test match Chris Wokes had as well. So you were, what were you, a bowler, an out-and-out bowler? Were you a bowler who could bat? Were you an all-rounder? What were you?
I was a bowler who could bat a bit, got a few hundreds for the school. For the school first 11, we used to have this tradition at school that if you got 100 for the first 11, when you got about 90, the whole school, because I went to a boarding school, so the whole school would come out and watch and applaud you when you got 100, and the school would present you with a cricket bat at the next assembly. And I think I ended up with bat pads, so I did quite well. Played minor counties for Suffolk and then went to Essex, but then realised I wasn't as quick as I thought I was. At school, you could, that's one of the advantages of being black, you could have a long run up and you'd scare people because they always used to think, obviously back in the 70s and 80s was in the height of the West Indies, their great teams and all their fast bowlers. But then when I went to play second 11 cricket, I think I was playing against Sussex down in Hove, and a guy called Alan Wells just said, mate, you're not that quick. I've been to the West Indies, and was hitting me for 6 off a half volley. So that's when I decided, no, rugby's the game for me.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How you could be really good. You could be one of the best at school. You could even represent, age group, sort of minor county or York, Essex too. And then suddenly you come up against the proper people. And then you realise, okay, now I know where my level is. Well, it works out all right for you. My turn. Question 5 is a tennis question, and this surprised me. Can you name the last 2 Americans to win Wimbledon? And we're going back a bit. When you think about it, it's just been dominated by the big 4: Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and to a lesser extent Murray. So the last 2 Americans to win Wimbledon, who were they? Are you a tennis fan? Well, obviously not. If you're going to do your Achilles in.
I have just got into playing tennis. The last, I'm a bit of a David Lloyd member, and so I've got into playing sort of tennis over the last couple of years at the David Lloyd, because I just think that it's still quite gentle game, something I can play into the later years. But you still get a bit of a sweater. But no, let me tell you, tennis is dangerous. You can rupture your Achilles. You've got to be careful. But yeah, I love it.
I don't believe you would play any sport gently, to be honest. I find that hard to believe.
Well, as all sportsmen know, you play to win, don't you? So, yes, but you have to remember that the body is getting on in years, so you have to listen to your body. Because I had a little bit of a twitch before I ruptured it, and I didn't listen to my body. That old, adage, when you get older, you got to listen to your body. I didn't listen to my body at that time, and I'm paying the price now, let me tell you.
Right, your turn. Question 6.
Question 6, a rugby union question. I have to listen to this one quite specifically. Which are the 2 professional teams I played for? It's a rugby union question. Which are the 2 professional rugby union teams that I played for?
Okay. Keyword being professional, hey? Right, my turn. Question 7. Well, it's tennis, but it's at the Olympics. Andy Murray is the double defending men's single champion. He won a singles champion. He won in 2016. He won in 2012. Name the two players he defeated in those two Olympic finals. Name the two people he defeated in 2016 and 2012 to win Olympic gold. And that is worth right. Question 8.
I don't know if you want to repeat that question in, because you kind of went a bit laggy there. I think.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Okay. Question 7. Olympics. The tennis question, although it's at the Olympics. Name the two players who Andy Murray defeated to win the Olympic gold medal in 2016 and 2012. Did you hear that okay?
Much better.
Beautiful. Right. Your turn, Martin. Question 8.
Question 8, which is a golf question. I'm not a golfer. I am definitely a hack. I get probably more fun out of driving the buggy around the golf course than actually hitting them. I'm a left-hander as well, so I never really. It was hard work trying to get clubs, isn't it? You can't really borrow anyone's clubs. There's not many left-handers about. Anyway, so it's golf. USPGA. 2 English players finished in the top 10 in the USPGA that finished on Sunday. Who were they? And that's a 2-point question.
There we go. Very, very relevant, up-to-date question there. Right, my turn. Question 9. It's cycling. The Tour de France, obviously, is probably the most famous, best-known cycle race in the world. It's one of 3 grand tours, as they call them. Can you name the other 2 grand tours, apart from the Tour de France, that make up the 3 best-known grand tours every year in world cycling? And that is worth 2 points. And finally, question 10.
Question 10 is a boxing question about a guy that I'm thankful that I actually got to see perform in Vegas. I think it was back in around about 2012. I think he fought Miguel Cotto. But this question about Floyd Mayweather, who had a record of 50-0. But can you name the 2 nicknames he was known by?
Yeah, so he had one, and then he moved to another one afterwards. But if you know your boxing, you'll know that he was called this either one or the other. Okay, and you into boxing, are you?
Oh, I love my boxing. I've been to see some great fights. I went to both Ben Eubank fights. Been to see quite a lot of fights. Yeah, been to see Floyd Mayweather as well. Just been Nas. I've seen more back in the old days. Funny story, actually. Frank Warren actually bought a rugby team, and I ended up. I think I'll end up if I'm talking about stuff, I'll end up giving them things away. But yeah, he was a great lad. Frank Warren used to invite me to lots of fights. He used to get to go and watch a lot of them, so I owe him quite a lot.
Yeah. Oh, he's looking after Tyson Fury now as well. So you've got a pretty interesting in the heavyweight division, at least. It's all set up quite nicely, isn't it? With Joshua, Fury, and Wilder, and some really good Brits coming up as well.
Yes, I think absolutely. I think if Fury and Joshua fight, I think that would fill any stadium in the world, wouldn't it? Talk. You always hear this, banded around. This fight is the biggest fight of all time. But if those two, or when should I say, those two lock horns, it's going to be the biggest fight in the history of the world.
And I would have thought the man who's got a statue outside the stadium, because it's probably going to be at Wembley, I'd imagine he'd like to be there.
Yes, thanks, Ian. Yes, I definitely would like to be there. I have watched Anthony fight at Wembley, but he wasn't headlining then. I think it was Froch and Groves were headlining that fight, and so I went to watch that fight. Great night at Wembley that was.
What a fight that was as well, by the way. Right, let's go through. Let's do the answers. Let's do the answers then for the first 10, and then we'll have a little halftime break and have 7 or 8 minutes to have a little bit more of a chat about your life and time. So, question 1 was football question. Man City going strong in Europe. Can you name the only European trophy that they've won, and when was it? It was the Cup Winners' Cup, which I used to quite like that as a tournament. But anyway, it's long gone. Cup Winners' Cup. And it was in 1970 when they beat a Polish team called Górnik in 1970. So 2 points if you got that one.
My question. The first question for me, question number 2, a rugby league question, and that was, remember what were the names of the old grounds that Wigan and St Helens used to play at? And that was a 2-point question. And of course, that would be Central Park and Knowsley Road.
Yeah, I bet you love scoring tries at Wigan, but I bet you also love scoring tries at Knowsley Road because you were scoring against the big rivals, weren't you?
Yes, I think I scored a hat-trick my first time there. I was actually playing for Widnes. I think it was in the Easter fixture. It was either Good Friday or Easter Monday. I can't remember one of those fixtures. Managed to score a hat-trick against St Helens. Fantastic day.
At the old Knowsley Road. Right, question 3, Formula 1. 5 very well-known former drivers have won the World Championship 3 times. Jackie Stewart is one, Ayrton Senna is another. Can you name 2 out of the other 3? The other 3 were Jack Brabham, Nelson Piquet, and Niki Lauda. So if you got 2 of those 3, as Richard Osman says at the end of Pointless, if you got that at home, very well done.
My next question, question 4, was a cricket question, and that was, could you name which counties England stars Chris Woakes and Dom Bess played for? And that was a 2-point question, and the answers were, of course, Warwickshire and Somerset.
There we go. Chris Woakes, otherwise known as the Martin Offiah of 2020. In other words, a man who could bowl very well and who can bat a bit as well. Very close similarities.
I thought he'd just be called Wokesy.
Yeah. But probably Wokesy and Stokesy. And they got the wicketkeeper, Ben Folkes. You could have Folkes, Wokes and Stokes all on the same team.
I remember when the batsman was holding someone's willy or something.
That's right. It was, what was it? Yeah, the batsman's holding the bowler's willy.
Yeah.
There we go. Simple things.
Funny how those things stick with you as well, aren't they?
Yeah. Question 6. Question 5. The answer. So the tennis question: who are the last 2 Americans to win Wimbledon? Pete Sampras, 2000. So it's 20 years since an American last won Wimbledon in the men's singles, at least. And Andre Agassi back in 1992. 28 years since Agassi won Wimbledon, and since then it's been all about the big 4. Question 6, Martin.
Question 6 was the Rugby Union question, which referred to myself, and I said the specific question looking for was professional teams, because obviously I started off my Rugby Union career playing for Roslyn Park before I went to play for Widnes, as some people may know. But I was never paid while playing at Roslyn Park because Rugby Union was amateur then. Rugby Union didn't turn professional, obviously, until 1995 when Wigan and Bath played those famous cross-code games at Main Road and Twickenham, which I was also thankfully to be part of. Which are the pro teams that I played for? And I think I nearly slipped the answer out. I think I even might have heard you say one of the names when we were talking about Frank Warren, because Frank Warren in the dawn of professionalism bought the Bedford Blues. So I played a year for the Bedford Blues. And then at the end of my career, after I'd gone back to rugby league after leaving Wigan, and I played for Salford and London Broncos, I finished my professional rugby career playing for London Wasps after Sean Edwards got me to put my boots back on when Wasps were in a bit of trouble, and I had a fantastic year playing down at Wasps. So
there we go. Okay, question 7, Olympics, Olympic tennis. Who did Andy Murray beat in the 2016 and 2012 Olympic finals? In 2016 in Rio, it was Juan Martín del Potro. And in 2012 in London, of course, the London Olympics at Wimbledon, it was Roger Federer, who'd beaten him a couple of months before in the Wimbledon final. So there we go. Double gold medalist, Andy Murray. You don't think of him as an Olympic champion, but he's a double Olympic champion as well as everything else. Okay, question 8.
Which was the golf question from the USPGA. Which 2 English players finished in the top 10 in the USPGA that finished on Sunday? I needed to name them for 2 points, and the answer were Paul Casey, who finished equal second, and Justin Rose, who finished 9th.
There we go. Right. Question 9, cycling question. There are 3 grand tours every year in the world of cycling. The Tour de France is one of them. Name the other 2. They are the Giro d'Italia and the Vuelta a España. So basically the Tour of Spain, the Tour of Italy, and the Tour de France. So well done if you got that. That's 2 points. And last for this half of the quiz, boxing question.
Yes, the Floyd Mayweather question. Can you name the 2 nicknames he was known by? And, I said earlier, I think at the beginning of our discussions that, you don't get to pick your nicknames. I think Floyd Mayweather is actually the only person who could probably get away with it. At first, he was known as Pretty Boy Floyd, and then obviously in latter years, Money Mayweather.
Yeah, because he was printing, had the license to print money pretty much. So toss up your answers, everybody. See how you're doing out of 20. That was out of 10 questions, 20 marks. We'll get back in 5, 6, 7 minutes or so for the second half. But this gives me an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper with Martin. I mean, the obvious thing is you're a London boy. You're playing Union for Rosslyn Park, which is real sort of rugby country as well, that whole sort of southwest London sort of area. How on earth do you end up playing for Widnes initially in the absolute heartlands of rugby league, which of course back then there was real sort of them and us. It was you're either one or the other, they're the enemy, and you're suddenly playing up there. How on earth could that happen, and how easy was it for you to fit in?
Basically, a phone call changed my life. It's happened a couple of times, but yeah, the phone just rang. I think the timing was right. It was 1987. Take us back. It was the year of the first World Cup. I just burst really onto the scene. I'd played in a few TV games. I played in the Middlesex Sevens. I played in the Hong Kong Sevens. I played in the last final sort of trial game before the World Cup when London played the North. Scored 2 tries outside Rory Underwood. I think I scored about 6 tries in the Barbarians Easter Tour that weekend. And so I was sort of coming to notoriety. I thought to myself, I could get in the World Cup team here out of nowhere. But, it didn't happen. And as I say, got a phone call from Widnes. And Doug Lawton was on the phone. And, he just said he wanted to meet me. I had a bit of an injury at the time. I said, just so many things had to come together because I had no thought of switching to play rugby league. I had desires and a dream to play rugby union for England. I played for England students, missed out as a schoolboy international because I broke my jaw that year. The year before, and it was just the right time. I think Terry Holmes 2 years before had swapped from the Cardiff Blues to play for Bradford, and I remember seeing in the Daily Mirror that he got paid £85,000. I thought that's an incredible sum of money back, when I was just a student, with about £200 and a dodgy stereo to my name. And yes, when the opportunity came, I just decided to take it. Obviously rugby league had a great history of attracting, rugby union talent. Going back into the dark days, even going back to 1895, you look back and a host of players had come from the valleys, more so than England, I would say, to play the game of rugby league, and the game of rugby league is littered with former rugby union players. Even people like Sean Edwards, a great who I played for, was a dual schoolboy international, played rugby union and rugby league for England schoolboys, and even Billy Boston and likes of Alex Murphy all played rugby union, who I'm on the statue with. And there are so many rugby league union greats, as I say, littered throughout the game. But it was, I kind of took to like a duck to water, really, even though I didn't score in my first 2 games. And I remember my 3rd game for Widnes against Runcorn at Station Road. And I remember Doug Lawton, the coach of Widnes, giving me a sort of bit of a tap on the back and saying, "Martin, I can't sign a try-scoring winger who doesn't score tries. So you better get a wriggle on." And from that day on, I think I scored in 15 consecutive games, and the nickname and the name of Chariots was born. And as I say, that wasn't a nickname I gave myself. It was something that I didn't realise was something that I'd brought over from rugby union with me. Colin Welland, the late Colin Welland, who wrote the screenplay to the movie Chariots of Fire, and ironically also wrote the foreword to my autobiography in just before he died. And he was telling me that, Martin, I remember watching the Middlesex Sevens and people call you Chariots, and when they were swinging Swing Low, and obviously the whole controversy surrounding the song and how it was attached to me as well. So I took that to rugby league. But as I say, I took to it like a duck to water. I enjoyed scoring tries. Obviously ended up scoring 501 of them in my professional rugby league career, and so the rest is history.
Now, Now, tell us about that Wigan team, because they had, as you well know, they won the Challenge Cup 8 years in a row. You were there for, I think, won 4 of them or 5 of them, and any great team in any sport, and you know this as well as anybody, you need great players, but you also need a bit more than just great players. You need the culture, don't you? You need everybody to work together. And you look at yourself. You mentioned Sean Edwards already. He was absolutely a massive part of that team. What do you think was the essence, if you like, of that team? Because I don't think there's been a greater team in rugby league since, or maybe even before, than that Wigan team of the sort of late 80s going into the mid 90s.
I think that team, captured the imagination of the sporting public at large. The only rugby league team to ever win, sporting team of the year, and in the BBC end of year awards. You got to think about that team. I talked briefly earlier about in 1995 when we had those great cross-code games against Bath, and Wigan were the first rugby league team to step foot on the hallowed turf of Twickenham when we competed in the Middlesex Sevens and won that. And you got to look at that team, the likes, and how that Wigan team has gone on to influence the sport of rugby in both coasts in the future. You've got to think about coaches like Andy Farrell, Sean Edwards, what they have done to the game of rugby union. You've got to think of players like Jason Robinson, who went on to play for England. Even Henry Paul went on to play for England. Scott Quinnell, who was also, a rugby union international, and then went on to play again for the Lions, I think in 97. And Vainga Tugamala, the precursor to Jonah Lomu. That team was littered with players who've had a massive influence on the sport, and still remembered to that day. So, as I said, I'm just fortunate to have been in a special team at a special time. That's why you're blessed. It is more than you. No matter how great you are, your sporting success is down to more than you. It's the people that helped you get you there. It's the people that gave you lifts when you were, when you were a nobody trying to achieve things as a schoolboy. It's your parents. It's the coaches. It's everyone in that journey. And I think when you achieve something great, you get a real understanding and feel blessed. And as I say, I was truly blessed to be in that Wigan team at that time. And I didn't get to play with the likes of Elliot Hanley. He played in the 4 Challenge Cup final victories before me. And after what Wigan had to pay for me, I don't think they could have probably afforded to have myself and Elliot in the same team.
It's a sort of a question I ask everybody, and it's really interesting hearing their sort of replies. When you look back on your career, I mean, it was an absolutely stellar career. Don't get me wrong, absolutely stellar career. And I imagine 99.99% of rugby union or league players would bite your hand off for it. Any regrets at all? Anything that didn't happen that you wished would have happened, or anything that you could have done differently, or will you sort of die, hopefully in 50 years' time, very content with the way life worked out?
It's impossible. If you're a true sportsman, it's impossible to be content. That is I don't know what the right word is. It dichotomy. That is it's almost the beauty, but it's the ugliness of it. Even now with my my broken Achilles tendon, you still want to get out there, and you're always going to still rue the things that you miss. I was truly blessed, and I couldn't have asked more for my career, and I squeezed that orange, and I got more out of it, out of my talent than probably I should have done. But still, I think about the ones that got away. Yeah, I would have liked to have had an England cap, but you're always going to want things that
in union. Yeah,
I would have liked to have an England cap. Obviously, got many caps, for Great Britain and for England at rugby league. Yeah. But I would have liked to have had an England cap before I went to go and play rugby league. Like a lot of my teammates had, likes of Alan Tate was a Scotland international, Paul Moriarty, Jonathan Davis, Welsh internationals. And obviously played against people obviously like John Bentley, Jim Fallon, who were England international wingers. And I always thought I wasn't quite in that club because I'm not a dual international. So there are those sort of things. But then I say, have they got statues? So that's why if you've got to be a glass half full person and not a glass half empty. Because if you're a glass half empty, then you're never going to be happy. But having said that, in 1994 on that famous day when I scored that try, Phil Clark, and it was the 26th anniversary of me scoring that try a couple of months ago. And Phil Clark, an old teammate of mine and one of the current Sky commentators, sent me a cake. Right, it's a fantastic cake. It's on my Instagram. It's a cake of shaped in the old Wembley with me on top of the cake, on my knees, in my pose that I adopt on my statue. And the story behind that was Phil's way of saying sorry, because there was a large sum of money out by the title sponsors of the competition. The first person to score a hat-trick, I think, got £20,000. And at the end of the game, I'd scored my well-renowned try in the first half. I'd scored another one against Jim Fallon in the second half. And I think I was hunting for my hat-trick. I thought I want to be the first person to score a hat-trick at Wembley. And I thought to myself, I'm in here, Phil. And Phil threw out the lamest pass. It was bounced on the floor. And a guy called Francis Cummins picked the ball up, ran the whole length of the field and scored. And I remember just lying on the floor thinking that, that was my chance. And I played at Wembley a couple of more times, but never got to score a hat-trick. And, and Robbie Paul, great player, got to score a hat-trick on a losing team in '96. And even to this day, every time I see Robbie, who's Henry Paul's brother, I would say to him, that should have been mine. But, that's the things that got away. But as I say,
I mean, listen, a cake's nice, but it's not the same as a hat-trick and 20 grand, is it? But anyway, it is what it is. We've got to get back to the quiz, but really quickly, it's the Rugby League World Cup next year, as you know, predominantly in the Northwest. How important do you think is it for the sport that it goes well, and particularly the home countries go well? Because you still feel, and I love rugby league, and I'm a massive supporter of both codes, but you still feel as if rugby league, even today, has got a bit of catching up to do, perhaps with union at a national and international level.
I think, it's the history of the sport. If you want to go back to 1895 when the codes split, rugby union has always been the dominant sport, even throughout the 19th century. And, it was an amateur sport, and, Twickenham could fill its coffers, and it got away without paying its players. And, and obviously England have won the World Cup in 2003. But as we know, we support our national teams in this country with great pride. And if, the England team, they did pretty well in the last World Cup in 2017 in Australia. But if they can go all the way and win a World Cup in their own country, then rugby would be coming home. Rugby league.
Yeah. It'd be massive for the sport. Okay, everybody. So we're going to crack on with the and thank you for that, Martin. We're going to crack on with the next 10 questions for the quiz. And I'm going to kick off with question 11, which is a cricket question. We've just seen the end of the first test between England and Pakistan. And by the way, what a test match that was. And yes, one-day cricket's great. And, the final was ridiculous last year. But test cricket is alive and well when you have games like that. Anyway, who are the two leading Pakistani test wicket takers of all time? Both famous bowlers. Name the two Pakistani leading test wicket takers of all time. And that's worth 2 points.
Question number 12, rugby league question, another rugby league question. And I can see the time is ticking away, so I'll get on with the question. Wigan heads the list of most Challenge Cup final wins with 19, followed by Leeds on 13 and St Helens on 12. Can you name two of the next three on that list? And that's a 2-point question. So two of the next three on the list of Challenge Cup final wins.
Yeah, I thought I'd make it could be too easy otherwise if you said name the top three, because you could have a wild guess and probably get them. But after that, it gets a bit harder. Question 13 is a Formula One question. Two British drivers have won the World Formula One title twice. Who are they? Name them. Both very famous drivers. Two of them. Who are they? They've won the world title twice, and that's worth 2 points.
Question number 14, a football question. Champions League. Chelsea got thumped by Bayern Munich last week. Can you name which year they beat Munich to win the trophy and what the score was? Another 2-point question.
Now you live in West London now, don't you? But where do you originate from in London?
I'm originally from Hackney. I'm a true Cockney, born within the chimes of Bow Bells in Hackney Hospital. My parents were academics. My dad was a lawyer. My mum was a school teacher. Went to a primary school in Islington, and then was shipped off to boarding school. But yeah, Hackney's where I grew up originally.
Which I'm going to guess, therefore, you've got to be a West Ham fan then, aren't you?
No, my brother is an Arsenal fan, but I'm a Man U fan. I get a lot of stick for being a Man U fan.
Of course you are.
My response is always that if I paid council tax up there, I'm allowed to support the team. And people used to call me a glory hunter as well. But that's the great thing I like about Man United not winning trophies now, is that no one calls me a glory hunter. That is the glass is always half full.
Would it surprise me if they win the Europa League this year, by the way? But we'll see.
Yeah. I'm happy with top four. Believe in Ollie.
Right, question 15. It's an athletics question. So the 4 times 100 meter relay team, the 4x100 relay team, won gold against all odds. They weren't favourites to win at the 2004 Athens Olympics. 4 sprinters. Can you name 2 of them? And I have to say, you talked about being good at cricket. You were fast. Ever think about athletics back in the day?
Not really. You know what? I wasn't really that fast when I was at school. I couldn't even get to my school sevens team when I was about 13 or 14. I was definitely a late bloomer. The only time, apart from sports days at school, because obviously I was a cricketer, so my summers were spent playing cricket, not doing athletics. And then I think the summer before I went to play rugby league, Doug Lawton told me, to turn up fit, and I joined it up. Back in those days, there weren't training clubs. We had to go and find our own, training centre. So I just went and joined an athletics club during the summer in London, and then ran a few races. I wasn't particularly fast as a sprinter, but I was fast on a rugby pitch with a ball in hand, which is slightly different. Probably the highest noted sprint I've ever beaten a race is a guy called Addy Maffey. I had a challenge race against him at we raced against the length of of the pitch at Central Park, and I won a TV that day, so I was quite chuffed about that. But I'm famous in Australia for losing at one race. I said even Usain Bolt loses a race, but I lost a race to a guy called Lee Odenrine, and people say who, but I say even in Australia, not many people know who he is, but they know that he beat me. So I think I made his career. You're doing something right if you can make someone else's career by them beating you in a race.
You had a bit of stamina as well to go the length of the field, that's for sure. Right, your turn. Question 16.
Question 16. A Commonwealth Games question. The Commonwealth Games will be staged in Birmingham in 2022. I didn't know that. Where was it staged in 2018 and 2010? Where were the Commonwealth Games staged in 2018 and 2010? 2-point question.
Yeah, Commonwealth Games 2022 in Birmingham. So that's good. It's all happening in this country. Right, my turn. Question 17, Rugby Union question. So Saracens and London Irish currently play. Well, Saracens have got their own ground near Mill Hill, and London Irish play at the moment in Reading. I think they're moving to the new Brentford Stadium, aren't they? Which is not far from you.
Yeah, it's literally down the road from me. I was avidly watching Brentford in the playoffs recently against Fulham.
Shame, isn't it?
Oh mate, it was so close.
They could have moved into their new stadium, yeah.
Literally down the road. I've had Premiership football literally down the road. Right, never mind.
Anyway, the question is, where did they used to play at in the old days? Again, say old days, only talking 25 years ago. Where did Saracens and London Irish? Where did they used to play before they moved into their current homes, etc.? Right. Question 18, Martin, over to you.
Question 18, another tennis question. Tim Henman featured in 4 Wimbledon semi-finals, losing to 3 different players. Name 2 of them. And that's a 2-point question.
So obviously he lost 2 semis against one of them, and then he lost 1 against the others. We've got him for one of our lunches in October, and 1 or 2 people say, he's a bit bland, isn't he? I don't know whether you met him or not. He's a very funny guy, actually, really self-deprecating. And you know what I really like about him? You talked about squeezing talent. You know how sports littered with sometimes people have succeeded more with less talent, but they've got everything out of themselves.
Yeah,
I remember saying to Tim at the end of his career, when he was still playing, about the 4 semis. He never made it to Wimbledon. And he said, you know what? Maybe that's my level. Maybe I got as far as I could, and I just didn't have the lucky break that I needed, which I thought was quite refreshing, rather than being forever bitter about not making the Wimbledon final. He seemed to be, okay, not doing cartwheels about it, but accepting it, which I think is quite nice.
Yeah, it is. You know, as a sportsman, you want to get the most out of your talent. You know, there are some players who I think overachieved. You know, probably Vinnie Jones is one of them. You know, he's got to win an FA Cup final at Wimbledon. You know, you got to think about how many talented players have never, you know, managed to.
But how many have underachieved as well?
Exactly. There are so many, and you know, everyone knows a great footballer, a great rugby player, a great cricketer at school who never went on to make anything of their career. And that's why, you know, when you do reach, you know, the heights of sport, you realize that it is more than you. You have to be in the right place at the right time. You know, you got to think of all the great basketball players like Charles Barkley, who never won a championship only because one man was in front of him. That was Michael Jordan. You know, if you're just born at the wrong time, you know, if you're just born with someone great in your era, you know, or if that great person who was in your era, imagine if he for some reason he's never born, then you become the great player in that era. So that's why when you achieve anything in sport, you realize that you are truly blessed, and it is an honor, and it is more than you.
Yeah. And you don't deserve it. You've got to work at it, and you can't just rely on your God-given talent alone. Right, my question 19, it's a boxing question. We've touched upon this a little bit before. Anthony Joshua won the IBF title first, the World Heavyweight IBF title. Who did he beat to win that? And then 3 fights later, he then added the WBA and the IBO heavyweight titles as well. So Tyson Fury's got the WBC title, but Joshua's got the others. Who did he beat to get the WBA and the IBO? So who did he beat to get the IBF title? And who did he beat to get the WBA and IBO titles? 2 different fighters, and that's worth 2 points. And the final question of the night, Martin.
A rugby league question. Can you name the nicknames of the New Zealand and Australian national rugby league teams? So I'm looking for the nicknames of the New Zealand and the Australian rugby league teams.
There we go. Of course, that Australian team, New Zealand obviously are right up there, perhaps maybe a little bit more now than they used to be, but it was very hard, wasn't it, to beat Australia? I think, did you not lose a World Cup final to them?
Lost the World Cup final playing for England at Wembley in 1995. We ran them pretty close. You know, if we had the video ref back then, you'd have found the try that I set up for Paul Newlove in the corner, which would have put us in the lead opening that game, would have been given in today's rugby. You know, sometimes, you know, it just wasn't our era. We got so close on so many occasions, and say that Wembley final, lost in another World Cup final, I think in '92 at Wembley. Also, you know, came close in Australia. Never been beaten 3-0 by Australia in a Test series, but came so close on a couple of occasions over here and over there, losing 2-1. Had some famous victories, notably in Sydney in '88, going back to that famous third Test, where the late Mike Gregory scored a length of field try, and Wally Lewis, the Australian, arguably even to this day, the greatest Australian player to play for Australia, you know, was holding me back. In '92, that famous win down in Melbourne, as I say, when we won about 32-10. So some great battles against Australia, but just couldn't get over the line. But you know, if even I think it might have been at Old Trafford in it would have been in about 90, I think it would have been, and we were literally 30 seconds away from winning the Ashes after winning the first Test at Wembley. We're at Old Trafford. I'm on the treatment bench in the physio, in the dressing room, on the physio bed, and I'm just watching a guy called Carl Gibson, who's playing in my position, take a dummy from Rhys Stewart, go the length of the field and give it to Mal Meninga or Andrew Lettenhausen, I think it was, and they go over, and I'm just thinking, you know, I wasn't even on the field, and I'm just thinking, if only I was on the field, Mal Meninga didn't fall on my knee, there's no way they would have gone down that. I wouldn't have let it happen. And then that's how close you come. And I say sometimes it's not down to you. It just wasn't literally seconds and
fine
inches.
Margins, hey? Fine margins. That's sport all over. Right, we need to rattle through the answers very quickly. So question 11 was a cricket question. Name the two leading Pakistani wicket takers of all time. They are, of course, the great Wasim Akram with 414 wickets, followed by the great Waqar Younis with 373 wickets. And as a bowler, you'll appreciate, imagine, those two together in the same team, having to face those two, not much fun if you were batting against them. So anyway, question 12.
Question 12, which was the Rugby League question. We know that Wigan heads the most Challenge Cup final wins, followed by Leeds on 19. That's Wigan on 19, followed by Leeds on 13 and St Helens on 12. And we wanted you to name the two of the next three. And they were obviously Warrington on 9, Widnes, who ironically were the Cup Kings back in the 70s, but haven't won a Challenge Cup for a long while. I think the last time they appeared in one was back in 1993, the game I was playing in for Wigan. So they're on 7, and in third, Huddersfield on 6. So if you'd got either Warrington, Widnes, or Huddersfield, then you're in the points.
There we go. Well done. Right. Question 13, Formula One question. Who are the two British drivers who have won the Formula World title twice? So it's not Jenson Button who's won it once, or Damon Hill has won it once, or Jackie Stewart's won it 3 times. It is Graham Hill, Damon's dad, and Jim Clark. Graham Hill, Jim Clark, both won the World Formula One drivers title twice. Question 14.
Question 14 was the Champions League question, asking when was the last time that Chelsea beat Bayern Munich after getting thumped last week, and what was the score? The answer was 2012, and it was 1-1, but obviously Chelsea won on penalties.
Yeah, I think it was Didier Drogba who scored the winner. Right, question 15 is athletics question. It was about the sprint relay Team GB squad who won gold in 2004. Name 2 of the 4. And they are any of Jason Gardner, Mark Lewis Francis, Darren Campbell, and Marlon Devonish. So any 2 of those 4. I remember they came down the straight. Mark Lewis Francis had a narrow lead over the great Maurice Green and held him off to win gold. Which, to be honest, seeing those boys even get round was a result. To get the baton actually into the hand was great. So it was there was an example where you're not favourite, but you find a way to win. So there we go. Right, your turn, Martin. Question 16,
which was the Commonwealth Games question. Where will the Commonwealth Games be staged in 2018 and 2010? And that is the Gold Coast. I'm assuming that's in Australia, and Delhi in India.
There we go. Gold Coast and Delhi, 2018 and 2010. Question 17, Rugby Union question. Where did Saracens and London Irish, where did they used to play? I suspect you might have played on these grounds back in the day. Southgate and Sunbury is where those 2 teams used to play until, relatively not that long ago. Do you ever play in those games?
I only played against London. I think I played against some Saracens at their ground. Yeah, it was just literally a park.
Ramley Road, Southgate. Yeah, it was a dog crap everywhere.
It was a park. Yeah, it was. I don't know if you think you could call it a stadium. I think it might have a stand, but that was about it. And Sunbury, I'm not sure if I played at London Irish there, but I think Wasp used to play at Sunbury. I know that, and I played for.
No, that's Sudbury. They used to play Sudbury.
No, I'm getting my Sunburys and Sudburys mixed up. No, I would have never. I don't think I played against London Irish. I played at London Irish at the Majewski, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. Question 18. Over to you, Martin.
Question 18, and that was the Tim Henman question. Who were the players? 2 of the 3 players who had beaten him in semi-finals, and the 3 were Pete Sampras, who beat him twice, Goran Ivanisevic, and Leighton Hewitt. I can say that one easier.
Yeah, Ivanisevic, if you remember. So I think Henman was 2 sets to 1 up and something like 4-1 up, and then it rained, and they came out the next day and Ivanisevic won. So there we go. It just wasn't going to happen for him.
I'm just going to turn my light on.
Oh, hello. I just wait till he comes back. Let there be light. Where's he gone? Here he is.
Hobbling along.
There we go. We're nearly at the end now. Question 19, boxing question. Anthony Joshua, who did he beat to win his first world title, the IBF title? That was America's Charles Martin. And then who did he beat famously, and what a fight that was, to then also get the WBA and IBO belts? That was against the great Vladimir Klitschko. And that was an absolute epic.
That was a fight. Both fighters down. That was an awesome fight. I mean, it was literally on the edge of my seat and just took me back to when I was a kid watching the great Muhammad Ali fights. You know, those days when we used to stay up. The only time you're probably allowed to stay up late. I remember famously watching, obviously, the Rumble in the Jungle against George Foreman, and yeah, that was up there with it.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely brilliant. Well, you have the honour of providing the final answer to the final question of the evening.
And that was a rugby league question, and I was looking for the nicknames of the New Zealand and Australian National Rugby League teams, and they, of course, are the Kiwis and the Kangaroos.
The Kiwis and the Kangaroos. So there we go. That's the quiz done. That's 20 questions. That's 40 marks. I always like to think, Martin, if you get something between, out of 40, something like anything between 24 and 32 is good. We don't want to make it too easy, and we don't want to make it too hard.
Absolutely. You know, my days of going on Question of Sport, and, you know, they were plagued by getting, you know, the question of your home. I think they've done away with home and away now. The last time I think I was on Question of Sport, I think it was just before the pandemic hit, and they do away with the questions now, because a lot of sportsmen were, you know, fearful. There's some famous ones. I think one you're never going to forget it once you get a home question wrong. And I remember it was a guy who's not alive anymore, and it was a Wigan question, and the answer was Quentin Pongia, who was a Kiwi prop forward who played for that was the answer, and a Kiwi prop forward who played for the Wigan Warriors. And for the life of me, I couldn't get it. And to this day, it still haunts me, that question. So yeah, you don't want your questions too hard, but you don't want them too easy. You want to be challenged, don't you?
All right. In the words of Frozen, let it go. Let it go.
There's lots of things I need to let go of, you know. There's lots of things.
We forgive you. Don't worry about that. Just think about scoring 444 tries as a professional rugby league player, whatever it was. Right, I told you that would fly by. We're over. We're done. That's the referee's blown the whistle. You've won again. The quiz is over. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Martin. Really hope the leg gets up. Listen to your body. Listen to your body, not your head, okay? Your body's telling you something.
Absolutely.
But you look after yourself, and we hope to catch up with you again very, very soon. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. All the best. Cheers, then. Bye. Bye, 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 bye. Okay, there we go. That was Martin Offiah joining us tonight. We've come to the end of the show. Once again, flies by, doesn't it, this hour? Hour and 4 minutes, because we've in a little bit of extra time. So really all that's left for me to say is, first of all, a huge thank you to our sponsors tonight. They are TAG, which is TAG is TAG, Test Assurance Group. They provide end-to-end testing solutions for COVID-19, and they work directly with employers to deliver a complete antibody and antigen testing to employees to enable a safe, controlled, fast and manageable approach to return to work. And their systems are data-led, and that means that they provide critical information as the UK returns to work. And boy, oh boy, does the UK need to return to work. So a big thank you to TAG, Test Assurance Group, for supporting us tonight. And a big thank you to you for joining us. As I said, we're going to take a couple of 2 or 3 week break whilst we can all enjoy August. Then we come back in September with more shows, and also live events are back as well, starting with the David Hay lunch on September the 10th, Barry Hearn breakfast October the 1st, and Tim Henman breakfast on October the 20th. And rest assured, folks, they will be safe, they will be sound, and as always, they will be great. So all that's left for me to say is thanks so much for joining us. Have a great few weeks in August, and we'll catch up with you again very, very soon. Thanks a lot, and good night.